Time now for our first one-on-one. Steph Stradley, the 2006 Ultimate Texans fan, going one-on-one as we get the stage set here. Take a look at the video of Steph talking about her support of the Texans.
Hey everybody, I'm with my favorite football expert, Stephanie Stradley, who is the Texans Chick and the Ultimate Texan fan, as voted by millions in 2006. Stephanie's been on the radio with us before, and I wanted to make sure you met her on television, and we're glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Now, you know, there's that misconception that the ladies don't necessarily know that much about football. You, on the other hand, I have to prepare the night before when I talk to her. Give me your game plan to beat the Colts this Sunday.
Well, I think that the obvious game plan is the one that everybody knows. It's time of possession, keeping Peyton Manning off the field. Last year, he could pretty much move the ball at will. I think they stopped him the time that they got a fumble, but ultimately, you want to keep Peyton Manning off the field and shoot clock and, you know, make it a game into the fourth quarter.
There you have it. There's your complete game plan. Now, how did you get to become such a football expert? You are a graduate of UT, and you're a lawyer.
I've always been a football fan. My grandmother was a big football fan. My mom is. And it's just something that I paid attention to. And when the Oilers left town, I was more heartbroken than any, breakup. And I think Houstonians either responded to that by not paying attention to football anymore, or when the team came back and we got a team in Houston, they got a little enthusiastic about that team, and I'm in that group.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for going
one-on-one.
Now, your fandom is well documented, I think, around Houston.
I don't know
about
that.
Where did it start? You know, where does your start? Is it from your father, your mother? I mean, where does your football beginnings kind of start?
I guess it's my grandmother was the biggest Vikings fan, and I thought that the name of the team was Dem Damn Vikings because you know all those Super Bowls. And my mom was a Vikings fan. I was born in Wisconsin, so I was a Green Bay fan. I didn't understand the whole divisional thing, so I would root for the Packers unless they, you know. And I would root for the Vikings unless they were playing the Packers. So, and you know, I moved around a lot as a kid, and you know, the NFL is a nice way to kind of follow, you know, different places from place to place. And I moved here in the middle of Luv Ya Blue, and so I had to be an Oiler fan.
So, what are your other big teams that you followed in your life?
The Redskins, some because we lived right outside of DC. Yeah, so I came to Houston already not really a Cowboys fan.
There you go. That's a good thing.
All right.
Now. So you come here in the Luv Ya Blue days.
Yeah, Earl.
Yeah, obviously get enthralled with the Oilers. And how was that now, I guess, as a fan, following the Oilers, you know, leading up to their departure?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's so many Houstonians that during that time, like their whole Sundays was all about being, you know, arranging their whole Sundays about Oiler football. And then all of a sudden we didn't have a team, and there was no way that Houstonians could stop the Oilers from moving. There was lawsuits filed, but by the time it was announced, it was already a done deal. So there was nothing, you know, people go, oh, well, Houston didn't care and no, Houston cared. We just couldn't do anything about it because it was a done deal. And so then after that, I thought we would never get a team because LA was supposed to be next in line.
That was like, what, 9 years?
It was, I don't even
was
know.
That long?
I try to not to, no,
7 years, something like that?
I try not to even think of it. It was awful because you need a team to root for. You can't just root against teams because it's not nearly as fun. So every fall it was just kind of empty not having your primary team where you're, you know, I used to buy, back in the day, there was the Post and the Chronicle. I'd buy both newspapers when it was, you know, training camp time, trying to get, and then it was just all of a sudden there was nothing. And so when we got a team back, like a lot of Texan fans, it's like, wait, we got a team. I'm not going to take this team for granted. And you know, it's been kind of a challenge.
Well, it's been impressive too because you know, even though Texans haven't been, I guess, lived up to a lot of people's expectations, they've consistently sold it out. Now, I don't know if that means putting every butt in the seat like usual, but you know, I think the interest of buying tickets is still there.
Well, I think people appreciate it, and I also think that the Texans were very smart to encourage tailgating because back in Oilers days, you weren't allowed to tailgate.
Is that right?
And so they knew, okay, our product on the field is going to be a work in progress, but how do you create an identity? I've been very fascinated about seeing the Texans from the beginning to where they are now, because it's hard to build anything from scratch, whether you're talking about a football team or whatever. Like there's no one right way to build a team. And so it's been interesting to see kind of the transition over time.
Now, how did your affiliation with the Chronicle and I guess just as an overall
Evolution.
captain of fandom, I guess, you know,
I
because that's
don't
what
know
you know, the one thing that's funny, I remember meeting you my first year here.
Yeah.
There's a banquet every year that
The draft luncheon.
yeah, not the draft luncheon, but the preseason luncheon.
Yes,
There's a preseason
yes.
luncheon. I'm at a random table, and you're there. You're asking me all these questions, and I'm like, who is this lady?
Who is this lady?
And how does she know, A, so much about my life, and B, how much does she know about all these teammates I have that I don't know about already? And then you know, you noticed online, you obviously have a blog you do online.
Yes.
And everything. I guess, how did that begin, and I guess how has it evolved for you?
Well, I mean, if you would have asked me years ago that this would happen, I would have never imagined in a million years. I mean, basically, I was very happy we had a team. In 2002, I was, you know, season ticket holder from day one. 2002, I heard, hey, they're having this Ultimate Fan contest, and you can get your name on the wall as an Ultimate Fan, and you get to run out of the tunnel with one of the Texan flags. And I'm like, that is cool, and they send you to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, that would be so cool. So I did that, and it was like 6 weeks after I had a baby. I'm showing up someplace. Yeah, it was lovely, lovely look. And I didn't win that year. I was in the semis, and then they had the contest every year. And I was in the finals 4 years in a row, and I got to run. I mean, it was so much fun because you're in the tunnel. The flags are heavier than they look. Like, I was actually sore the next day because you're doing all this business afterwards. And the year I won, I almost got run into by a Browns player because I'm doing this little flag thing, and they're all warming up before the game. So yeah, it's
pretty funny.
It was absolutely fun. And then that year, the Super Bowl was in Miami, and they flew me out to Miami. And by that time, I was blogging. So I started writing for the Chronicle because I wasn't finding the kind of writing, like serious writing. And there's a lot of pot stirring writing.
Well, and that's what I was going to go to. The one thing I'll say about your blogs, and that obviously when you get to know you, you're a fan. You love
Yes.
the team, but generally I find people that are on the internet are generally negative people. Even the paper, even the Chronicle, I think writers tend to be negative. Not all of them, but
Well,
I think
that's how
some
you
of them
get
tend to be. But I feel like you've taken a different approach in the sense that you try to take a dispassionate look at the team. I think you try to find interesting stats, interesting people that do things like Football Outsiders that you're a big fan of,
Yeah.
things like that, just to have a different approach. And I think people like that. I think people find that at least that's a different point of view.
Well, I guess the whole purpose of the blog was just a reaction to just a lot of, like, why is it that people are Christian in their day-to-day lives, but when it comes to the sports world, all of a sudden they're so negative and ugly and nasty about things. And I didn't think that was something that was necessary in just dealing with people, that you could be a fan, but at the same time, I've always found that the best fans are the ones who are realistic about things. And also, I don't like a lot of the know-it-all talk, because I think the wisest writing and the wisest thought is people who know what they don't know.
Sure.
And if you've had any exposure to what you guys go through in the back rooms and looking at film and stuff, most fans have no conception of all that goes into just putting together an NFL team, or the day-to-day of what you guys go through. And so I don't pretend like I know that, but I try to pull people in who know more about the subject, and just because I think if you know more about what's going on in the field, it makes it more fun to watch the game. Or if you know more about the people
Sure.
behind the mask, because you're wearing helmets and.
Now, in your real life, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
Correct. You graduated from University of Texas.
Yes.
Now, are you a UT fan?
Yes, I am.
So you generally go for them.
Yeah. I mean, hard. My undergrad was Trinity, and
So you don't go for Trinity?
No, actually, they're better. They're a better football team than when I went there. They were more into tennis then. But yeah, I'm a UT fan. But I separate my college and my NFL affiliations.
I'm sure your your law background has had to help you with your writing, and I guess the
a little
overall.
bit.
Because I know a lot of people that love to do it, but I think the grind kind of can take hold of them. And I think it's tough for them.
Yeah, it's become easier for me to do it. I think once I started writing for AOL Sports for a while, it kind of got the process easier, because it used to take me longer to do stuff. And now I have kind of a better sense of how I want to do things, and and what your style is, because it takes you a while to figure out, your voice.
Okay, wrapping up, we always ask every guest a trivia question.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we're going to ask you a trivia question right here.
Oh, no.
The movie Chariots of Fire featured two rivals competing in the 1924 Summer Olympics. Where were they held?
In Paris.
and she knows that because she was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that was the question she was ousted on. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, no.
The movie Chariots of Fire features two rivals competing in the 1924 Summer Olympics, held where? Amsterdam, Paris, Berlin, Stockholm.
Boy, that's going in the Wayback Machine. I've seen this movie, but it's been a long time. I think I'd like to do the 50-50 because I'm narrowing it down in my head, and I'd like to see if that answer's still there.
Fine. Computer, could you take away two of those wrong answers?
I believe the Olympics have been in both of those places. And I know the Olympics were in Germany before World War II. I really don't know.
Well, if you miss, you lose $32,000.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money. I know at least when I did litigation work, people often said that pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered. And I don't want to be greedy on this if it's just a guess, and nothing is coming to mind. I think I'm going to take the $64,000.
Guess she's going to walk with $64,000. The answer is Paris. Paris. Remember Jesse Owens in the 36 Olympics? Good luck today.
Whole life.
Nice. There you go.
Wow. All right, Steph
that is
Stradley
strange.
on Who
Nice.
Wants to Be a
Very strange,
Your
Millionaire.
own posse, your Chippendale posse.
It's so strange to think, okay, I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin, and then I'm greeted off stage with male dancers because I was on this special episode called Ladies Night. And so I think back, it's like, did that actually happen? It's so strange.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No, they called me up. They go, "You're going to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire," and I could barely hear the guy because my pulse was so loud in my ear when they called me, because I'm like freaking out. And they're like, "Yeah, and it's a special episode. You're supposed to wear formal attire." And I'm like, "What, ball gowns or what?" He goes, "No, just like if you're going out on a night on the town, and it's going to be this special ladies' night episode, and it's based on something they did in Britain, and they have the rights to the song, and na 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 na." And it was an amazing experience. They called me one week. I was there the next week, and they picked me up with a limo, and they took us out there. They had to approve our clothes, and I
So
mean,
leather
Wow.
miniskirts wouldn't have worked probably.
I'm sure they would be fine with that. But they did warn us ahead of time that the studio was very cold, and it was. It was the hardest part about the whole show, though, and it's not in the clip. They have the fastest finger buttons, and it's designed by the worst people ever because the buttons are small. You can't see the printout, and if you hold the button too long, it does a double hit, and so you have to type it really fast. You can't go back, and so a lot of times you would know the answer, but you wouldn't get it right. So in the practices, I did terrible, and I'm like, And so in the clip where I get it and I win the fastest finger, I'm freaking out. It's in the first part of the YouTube, and it's just, because I was like, I'm going to come all the way to New York, and I'm going to be stuck in this stupid seat, and I'm not going to have a chance. And then I get it, and it was like.
How nervous were you? Because it's got to be hard to think clearly when you're
so
in that
nervous,
seat.
but the best part about it is it was a very freeing experience because it's like national TV, and they have the camera this close to you, and the studio audience, and the music and lights. And I did it, and I got the $64,000, and I questioned myself, like, why didn't I say Paris? I knew that answer. And then I thought about it, it's like, you know what, if I can do this, I can do just about anything in my life as long as it doesn't involve actual physical pain. So it's been a very freeing experience. Nice. Like, okay, I can dress in silly clothes and run out the tunnel in Texans games. And, You know,
Steph
it's just
Stradley,
fun.
the Texans fan blogger for Cron.com, also an attorney and a longtime Texans fan, and writes about the Texans. Very in-depth writing, and check her out on Cron.com.